Often people, especially students, ask me about ham radio. It is difficult for me or any fellow ham to reach every individual. With this documentary on ham radio, I have tried to provide a holistic understanding of ham radio.
In crisis or calamities, the system that requires urgent attention for rapid rescue operation is communication. Whether it is a storm, earthquake, flood or war, communication is the only means by which one can get the true picture of the survival of human life. But unfortunately, during any such devastation, communication network is the first thing that breaks down, shattering the crucial link between crisis and relief completely. Normally, communication is carried out by either the laid down cables or through transmission of signals between two towers. But during calamities, these towers are unable to withstand nature's fury. So they crash down, disrupting the link of communication through wires. Some of the towers which remain functional are overloaded with heavy traffic, resulting in jamming of lines. The wireless communications, like that of cellular phones, operate through towers set on high-rise buildings, but even they are not completely safe and lose link either because of misalignment of antennas or collapse of the building. The satellite phone remains the only available option that remains functional, but only if the antennas are not damaged and the link is still alive. However, compared to other modes of communication, satellite communication is very expensive and not within the easy reach of a common man. In such situations, the only source of communication which remains active and affordable is the wireless communication through ham radio, also known as amateur radio. The chief reason why amateur radio remains operational during natural calamity is because this communication takes place through ionosphere, which means that if a person speaks through the ham radio set or the transmitter, the modulated sound waves or radio frequency will travel up to the ionosphere and strike back to a person having receiver. For communication to occur through the ionosphere, one does not require any satellite or tower station as its medium. For example, in very high frequency sets, communication takes place in line of sight, that is, up to any unobstructed distance.
When we hear in our history books that God ascended heaven, I think we are talking against the laws of motion and gravity in physics. Yet we assume it. What is being talked of is that God has gone into the ionosphere. So in fact, the ham radio and this kind of communication is nothing but going into the ionosphere and from there again transmitting back.
Hamming is a scientific hobby which is similar to pen friendship. Even here, you can contact a stranger from any part of the world through a radio set and gradually befriend him. The instrument or radio set used for hamming is called ham radio, whereas the person operating this radio set is called a ham. It is one of those few distinguished hobbies in the world which requires a government license. The word ham is not an acronym. In fact, there are many interesting stories associated with the birth of the name ham. According to popular belief, these three letters, H-A-M, are dedicated to the names of three great radio experimenters. They are Hertz, who practically demonstrated the existence of electromagnetic waves in 1888. Armstrong, who developed a resonant oscillator circuit for radio frequency work. And Marconi, the 1909 Nobel laureate in physics, who in the year 1901 established the first transatlantic radio contact. Some philanthropists even speculate that the word ham stands for help all mankind, as reflected in its service towards people in distress during natural calamities, disasters, and civil emergencies. The walkie-talkies must have often amazed you at some point of time. The sheer ability to hold a wireless communication set itself gives a feeling of responsibility. The very high frequency or high frequency ham radio sets are similar to the VHF or HF sets used by the police. But what makes ham sets different from the police walkie-talkie is that the police walkie-talkies are set at a spot frequency, which means they can be operated only at a specified fixed frequency, whereas ham radio sets are provided a bandwidth, which gives them the liberty to move across the band at any available frequency. In case of frequency clutter in the band, the user can switch to another band. Communication can also be effective using the repeater. With the help of the repeater, the range of the frequency can be extended. For example, in the state of Gujarat, if we put 6 repeaters, each one on top of the hills like Chotila, Pavagadh, Girnar, Saputara, etc., then the entire Gujarat region can be accessed through a simple walkie-talkie. Radio amateurs have access to frequency throughout the allocated radio frequency spectrum, enabling choice of frequency to enable effective communication whether across a city, a region, a country, a continent, or the whole world, regardless of season or time. The shortwave bands or HF can facilitate worldwide communication. The VHF and UHF bands offer excellent regional communication, and the broad microwave bands have enough space or bandwidth for slow scan TV or fast scan TV transmissions and high-speed data networks. This unique freedom of frequency gives ham radio an edge over the police walkie-talkies, providing invaluable help at the time of disaster. But has the thought of owning such a set ever crossed your mind?
I want to become a ham. Can I become a ham?
Yes, you could be a proud owner of a wireless communication set by simply getting a license to use it. Though ham radio or amateur radio is a highly specialized technical hobby, it requires no special qualification. Anybody with an earnest desire to learn something about the capabilities of a radio and at the same time make an on-air friendship with other radio enthusiasts around the world can become ham by applying for the license.
Are there any specific rules to get the license?
To obtain the license, one has to go through a course devised by the Communication Authority, which helps in acquiring the knowledge and proficiency necessary to communicate using a wireless transceiver, and qualify in an examination conducted by the government. The officer in charge Wireless Monitoring Station, Department of Telecommunication, under the Ministry of Communication, Government of India, is the authority for conducting these tests in either their center or in any town, provided there are sufficient number of applicants. The licenses are issued by Wireless Planning and Coordination Wing of the Department of Telecommunication, Government of India, to the students who pass the test in any of the grades. Restricted Grade 2, permitting use of very high frequency, that is VHF, for short distance or ultra high frequency, that is UHF, for very short distance. Grade 2, permitting high frequency, that is HF, VHF, and UHF frequencies, but with limited transmitting power. Grade 1, permitting all amateur frequencies with higher power, including latest techniques. Advanced grade, permitting higher power and advanced techniques, including satellite communication.
Who can become a ham?
In India, any person who is a citizen of India above the age of 12 is able to read and write either in Hindi or English, is permitted to appear for amateur station operator license examination. The examination is broadly divided into two parts. Part A, theory comprising of two subjects. A, basic electronics, and B, traffic rules or rules and regulations for ham. Part B, practical related to Morse. A, receiving, and B, sending. H A M R A D I O. Samuel Finley Breeze Morse, an American artist and inventor, is credited with the invention of Morse code. Although the use of Morse code as means of communication has declined, it is still in use due to its clarity and superior performance under extremely poor atmospheric conditions. With power as low as 5 watts, you can contact any amateur radio station located on the opposite side of the globe. The different combination of D, dot, and DA, dash, make the alphabets, figures, characters, and punctuation marks. The main users of Morse code today are Merchant Navy, military, police, and amateur radio services.
What instruments are required to set up a ham radio?
Hamming requires basically 3 things. 1. Equipment or instrument. 2. Power supply. 3. Antenna. After getting the license, a radio amateur is issued a unique call sign by the government that is used to identify the location of license. Each country that has amateur radio status has its own prefix and is allocated a range of call signs by International Telecommunications Union, ITU. The holder of a call sign uses it on the air to legally identify the operator or station during any and all radio communication. In certain jurisdictions, an operator may also select a vanity call sign. A call sign consists of a set of letters and numbers assigned by the authority. For example, VU2 or VU3 is the prefix used for India. So a call sign VU2XYZ will belong to a particular ham in India, and no other hams anywhere in the world can have this call sign. The general call is known as the CQ call, inviting reply from any on-the-air station. It is not a directional call. Directional call is given to a definite station or definite country. Example, CQ, 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 VU2XYZ.
What is QSL card?
When the first contact is made between two unknown hams, the callers exchange QSL card, that is, a written confirmation of acceptance or acknowledgement which has the propagation report and other details.
My QTH is Gandhinagar.
And my QTH is sector 2 Gandhinagar.
And the WX is quite...
When you hear interaction between two hams, you will find they use interesting terms like YL, YB, OM, WX, 73s, etc. These are known as Q codes or Q signals. The Q codes began in the early days of radio as a set of standard abbreviations to save time and allow radio operators who did not share a common language to communicate effectively. Today, amateurs use Q codes as shorthand to speed up communication. Amateur radio operators use their amateur radio station to make contact with individual hams as well as participating in roundtable discussion groups or rag-chew sessions on the air. Some join in regularly scheduled on-air meetings with other amateur radio operators called nets, as in networks, which are moderated by a station referred to as net control. The purpose of net is to handle emergency, medical or life-saving traffic, also to study propagation condition of the strength of the signal. Also, net can be an informal round table or be topical, covering specific interests shared by a group. Ham radio does not provide you any pecuniary gain. What you gain from being a ham is more than what money can give. And for that, you only have to be imaginative.
When any person becomes a ham, he also becomes aware of his social responsibility. He becomes mentally alert to address and respond to any crisis or calamity. So, a feeling of brotherhood develops naturally. And when a person is able to reach out to the needy when they actually require him, he becomes more conscious about his duty towards humanity.
With these privileges come responsibilities and rules for the operation of an amateur radio station. Especially, there are a few things that hams are not allowed to do. Hams are not allowed to do anything with their radios that makes them money in any way. He cannot broadcast to the public. Also, two hams cannot talk anything about business or commerce, politics, religion, third-party communication, or make any abusive statement.
So, what can we talk about?
Hams can exchange everything that is personal, cultural, common interest subjects, as well as technical information. Even in these days of technological advancement, radio is the only way to keep in touch with the modern world from the remote places.
Does it mean that I can talk to anybody, anywhere in this world?
A ham can become part of any or every important situation. He could be a member of an expedition team for providing emergency radio communication service. He could be a person interested in providing his service to the people in distress by way of organizing on-the-air emergency communications during any type of disaster. Ham radio is also considered as a voluntary service hobby.
Hamming, although is a hobby, but has significance much beyond plain communication through a ham radio set. Present day, youth are engaged in the wireless world and they want to expand their horizons beyond the physical boundaries of a particular country. Ham is the answer for that quest. To know something new, to interact with different individuals from the cross section of the society, to converse with like-minded people, it provides a platform from where you can enjoy your hobby at the same time be useful to the society at large.
A ham may be a media person who needs to use it during extraordinary conditions. Maybe a doctor who can organize emergency medical nets to provide on-the-air help to a person in medical distress. Ham could be a person who wants to make a network of his own.
My mobile costs me 500 rupees a month. My internet about 300 rupees. So how much I have to spend for hamming?
One interesting fact about ham radio communication is that hams don't have to pay any money to the authority for their on-the-air conversation. But during any type of emergencies, they provide invaluable communication support to the government. Ham is a technical sport which allows traveling across the continent and oceans by just sitting in the room and making everlasting friendship with unknown people of the distant unknown lands.
Hamming satisfies my intellectual need and enhances my growth as a person. I have been associated with this hobby for past more than 25 years. So for me, it is a sheer passion. I have not only made many friends from various parts of the globe, but also have been part of many rescue operations. The thrill to simply hold a ham radio has now been transformed into a habit.
As a part of crisis, or a part of friendship, a part of help, or as a part of hobby, ham is forever.